Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 32 of Fundraising BIDness Talk. I'm Patrick Cyber, the owner and lead auctioneer for G Events based in Beaverton, Oregon, and I'm so happy to have you join us today. We do this each week, and we try to chat about what current events are going on and best practices in the fundraising auction world. And this week we've got some fun stuff to talk about. As we get started, I wanted to remind you, hey, as you tune in, please be sure to say hi in the comment box. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Love to say hello and chat back. And then as always, please, if you have any questions, whether they're on the topic that we're discussing today or another topic that's on your mind regarding the fundraising auction world or fundraising golf tournaments, which we also do here at G Events, feel free to chime in the comment box. I'll see it and try to address it while we are on the air today. So with that get going, I had an incredible couple of days last week. I was able to go back to my home state of Texas and actually all the way back to my hometown where I was born and raised in San Antonio for the Fundraising Benefit Auctioneer Summit. This is an event that's held annually by the National Auctioneers Association and benefit auctioneers from around the country all join together in one location. And it's fantastic. A couple of days of seminars and open discussions and roundtables. And of course, always the benefit of visiting in the hallways and before and after the sessions. So it was very enlightening. It was very motivational and very exciting. It's the first time I've been able to attend in person. I attended virtually last year, but traditionally, the Benefit Auction Summit has landed on the same time that I do a auction annually for a nonprofit here locally that I'm extremely connected to and fond of, and so I've always not been able to attend, but this year it worked out. I did that fundraising auction the week before, and so I was able to attend. And I'm gonna start with today. I'm gonna take a page from what I learned at the summit from one of our guest speakers and probably our keynote speaker, an incredibly motivational individual, great personal coach, life coach type of individual, Coach Michael Burt. He has entered into an agreement and arrangement with the National Auctioneers Association, and so he makes appearances at several of the events throughout the year. And I've always been I would say interested, enthralled, excited about an opportunity to learn skills and tools to improve one's self, and I'm always have some type of self-help book on my Audible or somewhere that I'm trying to improve. Now, some of you out there might say, well, you don't do a very good job, but others who know me know that I'm always trying to make good decisions. So, one of the things that Coach Burt talks about is sharing what you believe, and so I thought I would start today with a couple of statements about specifically about our business and what we're talking about. And first and foremost, I believe that a benefit auctioneer, someone who is trained and specializes in benefit auctions, is going to be an incredible asset to nonprofits and folks that are hosting benefit auctions. I also believe that I, as a benefit auctioneer, have an opportunity and bring an incredible wealth of knowledge to a nonprofit in helping organize their event. And at the same time, I believe that every nonprofit is unique, and it is not a cookie cutter approach. It is not something that you can just say this works for that group, it will work for every group. I find that far and few between, where we have something as simple as a cookie cutter. But I do believe that your benefit auctioneer who's focused on doing benefit auctions as a livelihood and is invested in their career by becoming a member of the National Auctioneers Association, by securing their BAS, which is a benefit auction specialist accreditation from the National Association, illustrates that they're invested in their career, invested in their trade. And I believe that the Benefit Auctioneers is a unique organization and a unique group of individuals. Here at the summit down in San Antonio, it was exciting to me to see so many people in person that I have only watched on virtual events, or I have participated in Zoom calls with. I was very proud of what we as auctioneers came together as soon as this pandemic hit back in March of 2020, and how we quickly started sharing ideas and concepts and things that we were seeing work and different methods of doing things, because it really took our world and shook it upside down. So it was incredibly positive, and for me to be able to meet a lot of these folks, whether it was Freddie Silveira or George Franco, or the list is long and distinguished, of different Tom Stebbins and from New York, and it was just fantastic to get to spend some time and just have some casual conversations, and the opportunity to just ask and have conversation about things that you wouldn't necessarily make a specific phone call about, or you wouldn't necessarily send a specific email, but in the course of conversation, whether it be grabbing a cup of coffee in between sessions, or whether it's that opportunity, you just heard a presentation and you heard about how somebody does something. It's just really, really incredible. And it reinforced my belief that as benefit auctioneers, we have a responsibility to our clients to get out there and learn. And so I felt very good about the investment of going down to San Antonio and meeting dynamic auctioneers like TK out of Boston, and gosh, it's just there was a whole list. I think it's always great to see Scott Robertson from Florida. I took the BAS from him, or Trisha Brower from Kansas. And of course the legendary Lance Walker, right? And what I love about Lance is Lance has taught BAS for many years, and I've actually taken the course from him twice, and he is still the first guy in the classroom, and taking notes diligently, right? He teaches the class, but he was a sponge soaking up information. So it was great to see all those folks, and those who couldn't be there in person or online. It was an interesting environment. We did a hybrid format, and so we had both in-person people that were there in San Antonio with us, but then we had another 10 or 15 that were online, joining in the sessions and communicating along with everybody in the room. So it was fantastic, and it was interesting to see, right? And then in addition to just benefit auctioneers, we also have representatives of many of the suppliers of our industry. So many of the software folks were there. Debbie from Greater Giving, folks from Give Event.Gives, folks from Trellis, obviously. Got to finally met the famous Emily, who I've visited with several times. And then also from some of the consignment companies. Got to spend some time with the folks from Philanthropia. They did great. And it was just interesting to see all the innovations. Now, as far as takeaways, right? And I want to remind you, as you're tuning in, if you have any questions to ask, feel free, drop them in the comment box. I'd love to answer them while we're talking. And as always, be sure to say hello. Tell us your name and where you're tuning in from today. That's always helpful and enjoyable to see folks coming in from all around the country. So uh, I think the biggest takeaway that I took from this couple of days in San Antonio and the Benefit Auction Summit was that um, we're doing the right things. We are at G Events, we're giving good feedback, we're giving good counsel to our clients. I think that every part of the country is different. Many of the auctioneers that were in attendance have done some live events, have moved back to live events. Many are um, in a bigger challenge because they've moved to or scheduled live events, and not necessarily the auctioneers issue, more the nonprofits issue, is that many of their clients have um, scheduled to do in-person events here in the next several months and are really in a quandary right now, regardless of what part of the country. And you know what's interesting about that, and you've heard me say it before, I always say, hey folks, let's, my advice moving forward is to start with virtual and um, add an audience, an in-person audience as society allows. And people ask me sometimes, what do you mean a society allows? And what I mean by that is that I believe that today it's not only government mandates or government restrictions that are going to keep people out of the ballroom, it's also going to be individual preference. I think that we're going to have some folks that are not coming back to the gathering environment. They're concerned about uh, they're concerned about vaccines. They're concerned about mask mandates. They're concerned about a lot of things. They're also uh, they've adopted and they prefer the virtual environment, right? And as much as that breaks my heart, because there's nothing more exciting for me than standing up on a stage in front of several hundred people, as I did a few weeks ago here in Portland, outdoors, of course, but uh, you know, an emotion we haven't had in quite a while, year and a half. It was fabulous to stand in front of an audience, but the reality is a lot of people. Uh, I think the number is, you know, depending on where you're at, uh, there are people who do not want to go back and spend their entire evening at a social event and a fundraising event. So uh, this approach of starting with virtual and allowing an audience as society allows, I think is pretty universal across the country. And why I say that is, although there are fewer mass mandates in different parts of the country, most parts of the country are not as strict as we are here in Portland today, where it's mask inside and outside. If you are in a large gathering, they want you to wear a mask even outside, like at a sporting event or a social event. Even if you're outside, you should be wearing a mask, is the mandates from our um, governor and officials. In other parts of the country, there's no mask mandate, right? But I've been in Texas twice in the last several months. Once to produce a golf tournament up in Oklahoma, and then for this last weekend past, and I had noticed there's more people voluntarily wearing masks than I have seen than I saw a few months ago. And so just led me to believe that, hey, the counsel that we've been giving, which is, start with virtual, add an audience as society allows, makes a lot of sense. As I talk to auctioneers, as I talk to folks around the country doing what I do, I heard that quite a bit. Is that, yeah, you're absolutely right. We should have started with virtual, because the folks who didn't start with virtual are now in a real quandary as to, and maybe they don't have the resources, or they don't have the vendors or suppliers at their disposal to go to virtual. The other thing is that really concerns me for a lot of folks is the fact that many of them, because they intended to do in-person events, have signed agreements with a venue, maybe put down some deposits, maybe they have a catering contract in place, maybe they have a decorator in place, maybe they chose an AV provider who is not capable of live streaming. As simple as that might sound, there are companies who prefer to do audio visual in person and don't do live streaming. So it's a lot of exposure, and you can minimize that with starting with a virtual and adding an audience as it determines. Hey, I want to reach out and say hello to my good buddy Darren Deese. I thought I might see Darren in San Antonio, but I didn't see him in San Antonio. But Darren's a fellow auctioneer. We actually attended Worldwide College of Auctioneering together back in 2013, and then we also did the BAS course that first time in Vegas that same year. And Darren's been a guest here on the show, has written a book, and his business is dynamite down in Southern California. Darren, great to have you join us today. Always a pleasure to see your smile. And I would have enjoyed seeing you in San Antonio in person, but next time, buddy, I'm sure. So thanks for tuning in today, Darren. But back to my point, I think that probably my biggest takeaway from the summit was that aside from learning some new skills from Coach Burt and a couple of marketing ideas and things of that nature, what really resonated with me is the confidence that I came out of and the reassurance that we are going in the right direction. It's incredible to see as we talk with the different software vendors. Many of them have really embraced the virtual environment, and it's interesting to see how they have some of the services and some of the capabilities that they're developing and incorporating in their software. I attended a luncheon hosted by Event.Gives, and Candace, their representative, gave a dynamic presentation about their number one asset is that they have developed a solution that has zero latency. And Scott Robertson, an auctioneer that I have a great deal of respect for, is an icon in the industry in Florida and throughout the United States. Scott really stood up and endorsed the product and really endorsed the zero latency of Event.Gives. Now, for me, many of you have heard me say over the last 18 months that I wasn't so concerned with latency. And for those who don't know, latency is the time that expires from when I say something where I'm sitting and when you hear it, wherever you may be, right? So in a live stream environment, when I say something, there is traditionally a lag for my video, image, and audio to go through the internet and wind up in whatever device you're watching, okay? And I wasn't terribly concerned about that in the past. In fact, I've been quite vocal about it. And the reason I wasn't was everybody was virtual, okay? I have become growingly more concerned about it as we move into a hybrid environment. And so it's been something that's been on my mind. I've been working with our good friends over at the AV department, who have done a lot of events that I've done an incredible number of events with, on top of, not to mention how many they've done with other auctioneers and other nonprofits. I think they've produced, close to 400 virtual events over the last 18 months. And Todd Campbell and the guys over there do a great job. But I've been talking to them about how do we speed this process up, right? And I don't think it's necessarily, traditionally, I wouldn't have thought it was a software issue of the auctions platform, but I would think it's the live streaming, and I was sensitive to, how do we speed it up? And we can get it down, I think in traditional methods, maybe down to 3 to 4 seconds. But Event.Gives talks about a zero latency, and Scott Robertson, guy I respect a great deal, Benefit Auctioneer, He was adamant. He's used it at many of his virtual events, and it's been tremendous, because I think a lot of times we have a lot of auctioneers, and I heard this pretty frequently at the conference, that at the summit, many auctioneers have moved away from doing live auctions during a virtual event, primarily because of the latency, and it's very difficult to bid call. It's very difficult to watch the bids depending on the software. Some software needs to be refreshed constantly to see the latest bids, and that doesn't work for me. We came up with a solution early on at G Events where we start the bidding a week in advance on even our live packages. And then what we do on the live stream event, is we introduce that package and we announce where the bidding is at that moment. And then we let everybody know that they're only going to have a few more minutes to bid. And while they're doing that, we'd like to show them a short video, whether it be of a beneficiary or it be of another donor, or a feel-good story, maybe a key volunteer. And we'll run a 60 to 90-second spot. And then when we come back, that gives us enough time in the virtual to see the bids come in, regardless of the bidding platform. Now if someone's bidding, our preferred software has been Octria for a long time, and will continue to be, because that has a wonderful auctioneer interface that updates in real time thanks to their app. And so I can see that one, and I feel really, really good about it. But when we come back from that video, I can see if we've had any activity. If we've had any activity, then I'll continue to drive the bidding. If we have not had any activity, then I'll go ahead and shut the bidding down and sell the item. But the challenge becomes, as we move into this new hybrid environment, and all of a sudden we have an audience both in the room and online with us, right? Which is I believe 100% is the direction we're going to be going. That latency becomes a real issue, and so we're going to continue to explore it. I'm going to do some testing. I'm going to talk to the folks at event.gives and understand their platform. I know our good friend Roger Devine over at schoolauction.net is able to accomplish it, a very quick, short latency with his platform at schoolauction.net, part of Tofino. And they do a great job by compressing the video, and we don't send out HD level video. So anyhow, there's some options there. I guess the moral of the story, folks, is that the moral of the story to me is a lot of things have changed. I mean, a lot of things have changed. And if you're a nonprofit out there or trying to organize an event, do not underestimate the amount of knowledge and the resources that your professional benefit auctioneer has at their disposal, whether they have produced a bunch of virtuals themselves, as we have, or if they have a network of folks that they can reach out to and learn from. And also also definitely in the vendor community, because there is, I mean, I met some folks I didn't even know their companies existed this week, right? And it was enlightening. They all have their pluses. There's some things that I'm not a huge fan of, but my number one overall, tends to come back to Octria. I think from robustness of its capabilities, from the flexibility, from the different things that you can do and use the software for. I'm using it for a golf tournament in the next couple of weeks. I've used it for Giving Tuesday. I've seen it just is phenomenal, and to be able to integrate video and integrate different elements and really control things. And then when I look at the price, I am shocked that they are able to do it for the price they are. So I'm always, at least at this point, I'm still a huge fan of Octria.com. I don't see how you can possibly go wrong with using Octria. And even as we move into the hybrid environment, we are starting to do some ticketing and VIP experiences and things of that. And it's just been fabulous. So it's going to be great. But I think it's foolish not to look around and see what's going on. Latency is going to be an issue moving forward. We've got to make sure that we get that right, and so that our experience is similar in the room as it is online. And my concern, I heard some ideas, and I've heard these before. I'm going to touch base on them just for a second. We got a couple of comments here. I want to say hello. Hey, look here, Susan Johnson, another wonderful benefit auctioneer. I hadn't got to spend much time with Susan, but I spent a little time with Susan down in San Antonio, and she's chiming in. I'm trying to remember exactly where Susan's located. I'm going to say the Midwest, but she is obviously a dynamic individual. I was really impressed with her speaking ability and her just when she walked in the room, it really popped up and glowed. You could tell she is one well respected auctioneer. So thanks for tuning in, Susan. It was great to see you, and hope to chat with you some more. And then, hey, her ears must have been burning, right? Her ears must have been burning because Lori Hockman, our good friend at Octria, what does she say here? Patrick, you have such a nice, calm, gifted gab that makes the latency almost irrelevant. Live items that max out on bids slow down, and you have a knack for finding the highest point without boring the audience. You're very talented. Oh, appreciate that. What a kind way to say that. Normally I get called an oxygen thief, Lori, but I appreciate it. I may save this one and put it on the endorsements page. That was very nice of you. And you're right. I mean, I think our solution, as I described it earlier, has been very positive and has worked very well in a 100% virtual world. I am sensitive as we move forward that we have to be aware of it and continue to strive to get even better in the hybrid environment. So yeah, it's an interesting deal. Very, very interesting to me. So, back to my point, before I, took off on a tangent there. My apologies. It's just the way I go sometimes. Is that don't underestimate the references that you have. I think if you're a nonprofit out there looking to organize your event moving forward, even though your event might have been done the last 20 years in the same venue, or maybe you've changed venues, maybe you haven't, maybe you've had 10 different auctioneers. I don't know, but I would tell you that trying to do the event the way you did it 2019 and before is probably, it may be where you end up, but I'm going to encourage you with all the enthusiasm possible. I'm going to encourage you to explore and make yourself aware of the new features and the new ways of doing things. There is so much that we learned from the virtual environment. I think if you had told us, if you told me in February of 2020 that I was going to do 35 plus virtual events that we were going to live stream, I would have told you, wow, no chance. And then if you had told me that more than probably 80% of those events were going to make as much, if not more, of the money that they had made in an in-person environment, I would have told you were crazy. And if you told me you're going to have probably 10 to 15 of those events that do the best they've ever done, I would have told you you're nuts, right? And but proof's in the pudding, folks. And I think there's definitely elements that we miss from the gathering environment, and you could sense that even at the conference, right? I mean, there was a lot of folks that just even as auctioneers, we were loving being in the same room with each other, right? And exchanging stories, and just the social atmosphere was fantastic. And it really drove home to me that people, there's a contingency of our population that just can't wait to get back together, and we're gonna want to produce events for them, but we're also going to want to produce events for those who are not comfortable getting together. And the reality is that at the end of the day, our nonprofit partners, our nonprofit clients, are really, if we break it all down, in this business for one thing, and that is to raise more money to further their mission. And so we would be foolish if we did not embrace some of these new tools at our disposal and the new best practices and help them raise the dollars that they need. Because, folks, if there's anything that we know, um, change is inevitable. And the environment today is not going to be the same next week. It wasn't the same last week. And we're used to doing events that need planning almost year round in many cases. And the fact that we are seeing the amount of change that we are as quickly as we are, I think you really, really, really want to tap into your resources and reach out to folks and find out what's working. And hopefully in some way, it's the reason we started this show, or the reason I started this show back in January at the first of the year, was not only to hone my live streaming skills, but also to really share um, what we're learning and how fast our environment and our industry is changing. And it's been really positive to see. And I think about what we're learning, and it's really cool. So I had to do that one time, right? You see that cup right there, StreamYard. I never win anything, right? I don't win raffles or anything else. But in fact, Lori Hockman is the one that introduced me to StreamYard. StreamYard is what we're broadcasting on right now. We're using it as our production platform, and we are streaming to 6 different social media accounts. We're sending this stream to my personal Facebook, my business Facebook, my LinkedIn profile. We're also sending it to YouTube, to Twitch, and to Twitter. Okay. And the way we're able to do that is through StreamYard. And so I have embraced StreamYard and have become a huge fan. And every Sunday at 6 o'clock here on the West Coast, Gage and Dan, the two founders of StreamYard, host a town hall. And was really, quite honestly, was the aha moment for me to start this show. But they are the founders of StreamYard, and they every week for a half hour they get on and they basically tell you what's new with the software, but they also answer viewer questions. And so last week, or 2 weeks ago, they, at every show, they have a drawing of the viewers. You type in a hashtag and it goes into their drawing utility that they have, which is really cool. But after all these weeks, folks, was the winner, and I won a StreamYard coffee mug, which is it's a huge deal to me. I also won the StreamYard plush duck. Okay. So it's a StreamYard, the duck with the headphones on. Anyhow, crazy stuff. I know it's kind of silly, but the only reason I'm going to bring up StreamYard in this environment is because and I'm going to wrap up on this, folks. As we look at here, yeah, Lori Hockman's jealous. Well, Lori, you got to tune in. You don't tune in. You and I talked about that before. You don't always catch it. I know it's 9 o'clock in Boca Raton on a Sunday night, and it probably doesn't fit in your schedule for you and Mark. But yeah, they do sell them online. So, but I have a free one that I won, so it's fantastic. It's my new favorite coffee mug. Anyhow, my point is, as for you out there listening today and watching the replays and all of that, I want you to consider if you were planning on that in-person event and you're getting some second thoughts and you're getting concerned about it, there are alternatives, right? And if you're already worried about the fact that, hey, we're just going to postpone because we have paid deposit on the venue, the caterer, decorating an AV, all these different things. Okay. I'm going to encourage you to consider using a platform like StreamYard to create a low cost. I'm not going to say budget. I'm not going to say cheap. I'm going to say a low budget or a low cost virtual live streaming event. Tie it into, you already have your auction software in place. You already have all your procurement done, or you have the majority of it done. And if you're using a platform like Octria or many of the other ones out there that are on an annual subscription, you can do multiple events in a year. So I'm going to encourage you to consider using a software like StreamYard, and you can embed that live stream right into Octria. So it's incredibly powerful and fabulous to use. So, but if you need help with that, hey, reach out. Maybe we know an auctioneer in your area, or we can do it from right here. It's funny. I've done many, or several, I should say, several of the virtual events that I've produced. Several of them have been done right here where I'm sitting. I've had MCs in Colorado while I'm here in Beaverton, Oregon. And I've had remote producer, my good friend Anka Treefan at Treefan Events, pushing the buttons for me out of Meridian, Idaho, right? So if you need some help, folks, with how to make that conversion, how to use something like StreamYard, or how to maximize the opportunity, if you're in a bad spot this fall with trying to figure out, we thought we were going to go in person, now we need to go virtual, but gosh, we're really nervous about spending any more money. We got a bunch of money tied up in deposits and things. Reach out to us. Let us know. You can always catch up with us at geventsllc.com. In fact, there's a handy little scheduling app on there, and you can schedule a 30-minute or an hour-long Zoom with me. Love to chat with you about your event, see what we can do to help you, point you in the right direction. It's no cost. And you can schedule that right online, and it'll send you the appointment with the connection to the Zoom and everything else, right? And if you're local and you want an in-person, there's, I'll consider that too. There's an option there for an in-person meeting. But at the end of the day, back to the theme here, is reach out, ask your references, ask your resources, get them involved, right? Make sure that whether they've done it themselves, or they have a network of people that they can chat with. Do they have the right AV vendor? Do they have different venues? Do they have the right auction softwares or access to them? Can they make you recommendations based on all the latest and greatest? Now's the time, folks. Last time I checked, the bills still show up. And if you're running a nonprofit, you need to raise money. The demand for your services are probably growing in this pandemic. And the idea of skipping a fundraising event is incredibly challenging and nerve-wracking, and in most cases, it's not just the annual gala auction, right? It's also, we had to give up the fun run, and we had to give up the bake sale, and we had to give up, all the different fundraising events. I find, if a nonprofit had, 7 to 8 fundraising events, COVID's impacted all of them, right? And the saving grace can be creating a virtual auction. And, the proof's in the pudding, folks. The last 18 months, we've seen charitable giving rise, and we've had tremendous success with it. So don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. geventsllc.com. I want to remind you, every week we're right here at Fundraising Business Talk is live Wednesdays at noon. You can catch all the episodes if you want to see what we've been saying for the last, since January 1, right? This is episode 32. You can always go to fundraisingbidnesstalk.com and check it out and see all the recordings, see what we've said, and how we've been helping people through all of this. I appreciate you tuning in today. Thanks so much. And it's great to see everybody chiming in. Lori, Susan, Darren, the whole gang. A lot of fun, and can't wait to see you next Wednesday. Until then, remember, it's not where you start the bidding, it's where you finish. Live it up, folks.